The great hall of the Kalarian Palace was filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Tall creatures with silver skin and glowing purple eyes stood in perfect lines. Their bodies were strong, and their faces showed no emotion. They were waiting for their queen to speak. Queen Velith sat on her throne made of black crystal. She was beautiful in a way that made others afraid. Her silver skin shined like metal under the lights. Her purple eyes could see through lies and weakness. She had ruled the Kalarian Empire for 300 years, and no one had ever questioned her power. Today was different. Today she had to accept something she did not want. "Bring him in," she said. Her voice was cold like ice. The massive doors opened slowly. 2 Kalarian guards walked in first. Between them was a human male. He was shorter than everyone else in the room. His skin was a warm brown color, and his black hair was neatly combed. He wore simple white clothes that looked plain compared to the fancy robes of the Kalorians. His name was Doyun. He was 28 years old. Back on Earth, he had worked as a translator for the Galactic Council. He spoke 15 languages and had helped many species understand each other. But none of that mattered here. Here, he was just a weak human who was about to become the queen's husband. The Kalarian nobles whispered to each other as Dohyun walked toward the throne. Some of them laughed quietly. Others looked at him with disgust. "This is the groom?" said Lord Tarvok, the queen's chief advisor. He was taller than the other Kalarians, and his eyes glowed brighter. "He looks like a child. How can such a weak creature stand beside our queen?" Dohyun heard the words, but did not react. He kept walking forward with his head held high. His heart was beating fast, but his face remained calm. He stopped at the bottom of the steps that led to the throne. According to Kalarian custom, he had to wait for the queen to speak first. Velith looked down at him. She studied his face, his body, his everything. She was searching for something special, something that might explain why the Galactic Council had chosen him. She found nothing. "Human," she said. "Do you know why you are here?" Dohyun bowed his head slightly. "Yes, Your Majesty. I am here to fulfill the marriage agreement between Earth and the Kalarian Empire. And do you know what this marriage means? It means peace between our peoples. It means trade routes will open. It means thousands of lives will be saved." Velith's eyes narrowed. His answer was correct, but she did not like how calm he sounded. Most beings trembled when they stood before her. This human showed no fear. "You are brave," she said. "Or perhaps you are stupid. Tell me, human, what powers do you possess? Can you move objects with your mind? Can you heal wounds with your touch? Can you see the future?" "No, Your Majesty. I have none of those abilities." The nobles laughed louder this time. Lord Tarvok stepped forward with a cruel smile on his face. "My queen, this is an insult," he said. "The humans send us their weakest member. They mock our great empire. We should reject this marriage and show them what happens when someone disrespects the Kalarians." Velith raised her hand and the hall became silent. She continued to stare at Dohyun. "Human, Lord Tarvok speaks the truth. Your species has no special powers. You cannot live for more than 100 years. Your bodies break easily. Why should I accept you as my husband?" Dohyun took a deep breath. He had expected this question. He had prepared for this moment during the long journey to the Kalarian homeworld. "Your Majesty, I cannot offer you strength or magic or long life. I can only offer you what I am. A man who keeps his promises. A man who will stand beside you in good times and bad. A man who will respect you and your people." The hall was silent. No one had ever spoken to the queen this way. Kalarians believed in power above all else. Words like promises and respect meant nothing to them. Velith leaned back on her throne. "Pretty words. But words are empty. In the Kalorian Empire, we judge people by their actions. Then judge me by my actions, Your Majesty. Give me time to show you who I am. Lord Tarvok stepped forward again. My queen, let me test this human. Let me see if he can survive even one day in our world. The other nobles agreed loudly. They wanted to see the humans suffer. They wanted entertainment. Velith thought for a moment. Then she nodded. Very well. Lord Tarvok will be in charge of the humans' integration. You will learn our ways, human. You will work, train, and live as a Kalorian. If you survive 1 month, the marriage will proceed. If you fail, you will be sent back to Earth in shame. Dahyun bowed again. I accept your terms, Your Majesty. Lord Tarvok grabbed Dohyun's arm hard. His grip was strong enough to break human bones, but he stopped just before causing damage. Come with me, little human. Your suffering begins now. As Dahyun was led away, he looked back at the queen one last time. Their eyes met for just a moment. Velith saw something in his gaze that she could not understand. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something else. She pushed the thought away and returned to her duties. The human would fail. They always did. And when he failed, she would find another way to secure the trade alliance. But deep in her mind, a small voice wondered if this human was different. She ignored it. She was Queen Velith of the Kalorian Empire. She did not waste time wondering about weak creatures like humans. The great hall emptied slowly. The nobles returned to their homes, already planning how they would make the human's life miserable. They did not know that Dohyun had faced difficulties before. They did not know that humans were not as weak as they looked, and they certainly did not know that this simple human translator would soon change their queen forever. Dohyun followed Lord Tarvok through the dark corridors of the palace. His arm hurt where the Kalorian had grabbed him, but he did not complain. He knew that complaining would only make things worse. He thought about his family back on Earth. His mother had cried when he left. His younger sister had begged him not to go. But Dahyun knew that this marriage was important. If he succeeded, humans would gain access to Kalorian medicine and technology. Millions of sick people could be healed. Entire planets could be saved. For that, he was willing to suffer. Lord Tarvok threw him into a small room with no windows. This is where you will sleep. Training starts at sunrise. Do not be late. The door slammed shut, leaving Dohyun alone in the darkness. He sat down on the cold floor and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be hard. The next month would be even harder. But he would not give up. He was human, and humans never gave up. The sun rose over the Kalorian palace, painting the sky in shades of deep red and orange. Dohyun had not slept well. The floor was hard, and the room was freezing cold. But when the door opened at sunrise, he was already standing and ready. Lord Tarvok looked surprised for just a moment. Then his face returned to its usual expression of disgust. Follow me, human. Today you will learn what it means to be Kalorian. Dahyun followed without saying a word. They walked through long hallways filled with beautiful art and weapons hanging on the walls. Other Kalorians stopped to stare at him. Some pointed and laughed. Others simply looked away as if he did not exist. They arrived at a large training ground outside the palace. Dozens of Kalorian warriors were already there, practicing combat moves. Their movements were fast and powerful. Each punch could break through stone. Each kick could send a person flying across the field. This is where our warriors train, Lord Tarvok said. You will train with them. Dahyun looked at the warriors. They were all much bigger and stronger than him. Their muscles were like iron under their silver skin. Fighting them would be like fighting machines. I understand, Dahyun said calmly. Lord Tarvok smiled. It was not a kind smile. Good. Let us see how long you last. Commander Reddick. A female warrior walked over. She was tall, and her arms were covered with battle scars. Her eyes studied Do-Yun the way a hunter studies prey. "This is the human?" she asked. "He is smaller than I expected. He is here to train with your warriors. Show him no mercy." Commander Reddick nodded slowly. "Come, human. Let us begin." For the next several hours, Do-Yun was pushed to his limits and beyond. He ran until his legs burned. He lifted weights until his arms shook. He practiced combat moves while Kalorian warriors attacked him from all sides. He fell down many times. His body was covered with bruises. Blood dripped from cuts on his face and hands. But every time he fell, he got back up. The Kalorian warriors watched with growing interest. They had expected the human to give up after the first hour. Instead, he kept going. His movements were slow and clumsy compared to theirs, but his determination was something they had never seen before. "Why does he not quit?" one warrior asked another. "Perhaps humans are too stupid to know when they are beaten." Commander Reddick said nothing. She was watching Do-Yun closely. There was something in his eyes that reminded her of the greatest Kalorian warriors. It was not strength or speed. It was will. Pure, unbreakable will. By midday, Do-Yun could barely stand. His entire body was screaming in pain. Lord Tarvok walked over with that same cruel smile on his face. "Ready to give up, human? Just say the word, and we will send you home. No one will blame you." Do-Yun wiped the blood from his lip. "I am not finished yet. Foolish creature. You cannot even stand properly. What makes you think you can survive here?" Do-Yun looked up at the tall Kalorian. "Because giving up is not something I know how to do." Lord Tarvok's smile faded slightly. He did not like this answer. He turned to Commander Reddick. "Continue his training. Make it harder." The afternoon was worse than the morning. Do-Yun was forced to fight against 3 warriors at once. They did not hold back. They hit him with enough force to break bones. But somehow, Do-Yun kept getting up. The warriors started to feel uncomfortable. Beating this human was not fun anymore. It was like hitting a wall that refused to fall. No matter how hard they tried, they could not break his spirit. News of the human's training spread through the palace. Servants whispered about it. Nobles discussed it over their meals. Even Queen Velith heard the stories. "They say the human has not given up," one of her advisors reported. "He has been training for 8 hours, and he still stands." Velith raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. Perhaps he is more stubborn than we thought." "Stubbornness is not power, my queen. He will break eventually." "Perhaps. Keep me informed." That evening, Do-Yun was dragged back to his small room. He collapsed on the floor, unable to move. Every part of his body hurt. He could not remember ever feeling so much pain. But he smiled. He had survived the first day. He had not given up. Tomorrow would be hard too, but he would face it the same way. One day at a time. 1 hour at a time. 1 moment at a time. The door opened and a young Kalorian female walked in. She carried a tray with food and water. Her name was Somi, and she was a servant in the palace. Unlike the others, she did not look at Do-Yun with disgust. Instead, her eyes showed something like concern. "You should eat," she said softly. "You will need your strength for tomorrow." Do-Yun struggled to sit up. "Thank you." Somi placed the tray beside him. "Why do you not give up? Everyone expects you to fail. Why you keep trying?" Do-Yun took a sip of water. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. "Because there are people depending on me. If I fail, they suffer. If I succeed, they live better lives. That is enough reason to keep going." Somi tilted her head. "You suffer for others? That is strange. In our culture, We only care about our own power and glory. Then perhaps our cultures are different. In my world, we believe that helping others makes us stronger, not weaker." Somi thought about this for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You are strange, human, but I think I understand you a little." She left the room quietly. Do-hyun ate the food and drank the water. Then he lay down and closed his eyes. The next few weeks were brutal. Every day brought new challenges. Do-hyun was forced to learn Kalorian history, language, and customs. He was tested on combat, strategy, and endurance. He failed many times, but he never quit. Slowly, something began to change in the palace. The warriors who once laughed at him now nodded with respect when he passed. The servants who once ignored him now greeted him with small smiles. Even some of the nobles started to watch him with curiosity instead of disgust. Lord Tarvok noticed these changes and did not like them. He made the training harder. He added more tests. He did everything he could to break the human. But Do-hyun would not break. How is this possible? Lord Tarvok asked Commander Revik one evening. He has no power. He has no special abilities. Yet he survives everything we throw at him. Commander Revik looked at the setting sun. Perhaps we have been measuring him wrong. We look for power in muscles and magic. But the human has a different kind of power. One that we do not understand. What kind of power? I do not know. But it is real. I can see it in his eyes every time he gets back up. Whatever it is stronger than anything I have seen in our warriors. Lord Tarvok frowned. He did not believe in powers he could not see or measure. The human was just lucky. Soon his luck would run out. But deep down, Lord Tarvok was starting to worry. The month was almost over, and the human was still standing. If he survived, the marriage would proceed. And Lord Tarvok would have to accept a weak human as his queen's husband. That was something he could not allow. He began to plan. If the human would not break naturally, then Lord Tarvok would have to find another way. He would not let this strange, stubborn creature ruin everything he had worked for. The human had to be stopped, no matter what it took. The month was almost over. Do-hyun had survived every test, every challenge, and every attempt to break him. In 3 more days, the marriage would proceed as planned. Queen Velith had been watching from a distance, and though she never admitted it, she was impressed by the human strength. Then the sickness came. It started in the lower parts of the palace, where the servants lived. At first, it seemed like a small illness. A few workers felt tired and weak. Their silver skin turned pale gray. They could not eat or sleep properly. Within 2 days, the sickness had spread to every corner of the palace. Warriors fell to their knees, unable to stand. Nobles locked themselves in their rooms, afraid to touch anyone. The royal doctors worked without rest, but nothing they did helped. They called it the Grey Death. It was an old disease that had not been seen in hundreds of years. The Kalorians thought they had destroyed it long ago. They were wrong. On the 5th day of the outbreak, Queen Velith collapsed during a meeting with her advisors. The entire palace went into panic. Guards ran through the hallways, not knowing what to do. Servants cried and prayed to their ancient gods. Lord Tarvok stood in the throne room, his face pale with fear. "The queen is sick," he announced to the gathered nobles. "Our doctors say she has 3 days to live. Perhaps less." The nobles looked at each other in horror. If the queen died, the empire would fall into chaos. There would be wars, rebellions, and destruction across 100 worlds. What can we do? One noble asked. Nothing. The Grey Death has no cure. We must prepare for the worst. One by one, the nobles began to leave. They wanted to protect themselves and their families. They wanted to be far away when the queen took her last breath. Loyalty meant nothing when death was near. Do-hyun stood in the corner of the throne room, watching everything. He had survived the sickness so far. Human biology was different from Kalorian biology. The disease could not harm him, but it could harm Velith. And despite everything that had happened, he could not let her die alone. He walked toward Lord Tarvok. "Take me to the queen." Lord Tarvok laughed bitterly. "Why? So you can watch her die? So you can celebrate the end of your arranged marriage? No, so I can help her." "Help her? You are human. You know nothing about Kalorian medicine. You would only make things worse." Do-hyun stepped closer. His eyes were firm and unafraid. "I may not know Kalorian medicine, but I know how to care for sick people. I know how to give comfort when there is no hope. Let me try. What do you have to lose?" Lord Tarvok wanted to refuse. He hated this human more than anyone. But he also knew that Do-hyun was right. The doctors had given up. The nobles had run away. There was nothing left to try. "Fine, but if you make her suffer more, I will kill you myself." Do-hyun nodded. Understood. He was led to the queen's private chambers. 2 guards stood outside, their faces full of grief. They stepped aside when Lord Tarvok gave the order. Inside, the room was dark and cold. Velith lay on her bed, covered in thick blankets. Her silver skin had turned almost completely gray. Her breathing was slow and painful. Her glowing purple eyes were dim. The royal doctors stood nearby, looking helpless. They had tried everything they knew. Nothing worked. "Leave us," Do-hyun said quietly. The doctors looked at Lord Tarvok. He hesitated, then nodded. Everyone left the room except Do-hyun and the dying queen. Do-hyun walked to the bed and sat down beside her. He took her hand gently. Her skin was cold, much colder than it should be. "Your Majesty, can you hear me?" Velith's eyes opened slightly. "Human? Why are you here?" "Everyone else is left. I am not everyone else." A weak smile crossed her lips. "Foolish creature. You should run like the others. Save yourself. I made a promise to stand beside you in good times and bad. This counts as bad." Velith coughed painfully. "Pretty words again. But words cannot save me." "Nothing can." Do-hyun gently touched her forehead. She was burning with fever despite her cold skin. He had seen this before in human diseases. The body was fighting, but it was losing. He stood up and looked around the room. "Do you have water? Clean cloth? Something to make soup or broth? Why do you ask for such simple things?" "Because sometimes simple things are the most important. Your doctors tried complex medicine. Let me try something different." For the next several hours, Do-hyun worked without rest. He found water and boiled it to make it clean. He made a simple broth using ingredients from the palace kitchen. He soaked claws in cool water and placed them on Velith's forehead to reduce her fever. He talked to her constantly, keeping her mind active and focused. He told her stories about Earth, about his family, about his dreams. He held her hand when the pain became too much. He sang old songs that his mother used to sing to him when he was sick as a child. The doctors watched from outside, confused by his methods. They did not understand why he was doing these things. Kalorian medicine was about power and technology, not gentle care and simple remedies. "He is wasting time," one doctor said. "The queen will die no matter what he does." Somi, the servant girl who had shown Do-hyun kindness before, shook her head. "Look at her face. She seems more peaceful than before." It was true. Velith's expression had changed. The pain was still there, but she no longer looked afraid. She looked almost calm. Morning came. Velith was still alive. Her condition had not improved, but it had not gotten worse either. The doctors were surprised. They had expected her to be dead by now. Do-hyun continued his care. He fed her small amounts of broth. He changed the cool claws on her forehead. He never left her side for more than a few minutes. Why? Velith whispered during one quiet moment. Why do you do this? If I die, you are free. You can go home. You do not have to marry someone who has treated you so badly. Do-hyun looked into her dim eyes. Because this is not about the marriage. This is about you. You are a person who is suffering. And when someone suffers, I want to help. That is all. Velith stared at him for a long time. In her 300 years of life, no one had ever said such words to her. Everyone wanted something from her. Power, favor, protection. But this human wanted nothing. He simply wanted to help. You are very strange, she said softly. So I have been told. Another day passed. Velith was still fighting. Her body was weak, but something inside her refused to give up. She did not know if it was her own will or if something else was keeping her alive. She only knew that she did not want to disappoint the strange human sitting beside her. Lord Tarvok watched from the shadows, his mind full of dark thoughts. The human was becoming too important. If Velith survived because of him, his influence would grow even stronger. The nobles would respect him. The servants would love him. Everything Lord Tarvok had worked for would be ruined. He could not allow that to happen. He began to make new plans. Dangerous plans. Plans that could change everything forever. But for now, he waited. He watched. And he hoped that the Grey Death would finish what it had started. Inside the Queen's chambers, Do-hyun continued his work. He was tired and hungry, but he did not stop. He could feel that something important was happening. The Queen was changing, not just physically, but somewhere deep inside. And he was determined to see that change through to the end, no matter what waited for them on the other side. 7 days had passed since Queen Velith first collapsed. Against all expectations, she was still alive. Her condition had slowly begun to improve. The gray color of her skin was fading, returning to its natural silver. Her breathing was stronger. Her eyes were starting to glow again. The royal doctors could not explain it. The Grey Death had killed thousands of Calorians throughout history. No one had ever survived it before. Yet here was their queen, getting better day by day. They did not want to admit that the human's simple care had made the difference. It was easier to call it a miracle. Do-hyun sat beside Velith's bed, as he had done for the past week. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. He had barely slept or eaten. His body was exhausted, but he refused to rest until he knew the queen was safe. Velith watched him with curious eyes. Every day she grew stronger, and every day she understood this human a little more. He was not like anyone she had ever known. Do-hyun, she said softly. It was the first time she had used his name instead of calling him human. He looked up from the book he was reading to her. Yes, Your Majesty. You have not slept in 3 days. You need to rest. I will rest when you are fully recovered. Velith shook her head slowly. You are a stubborn creature, so I have been told. A small laugh escaped her lips. It hurt her chest, but it felt good too. She had not laughed in a very long time. Tell me more about your home, she said. Tell me about Earth. Do-hyun closed the book and leaned back in his chair. What would you like to know? Everything? I want to understand how your people think, how they live, what makes them so different from us. Do-hyun thought for a moment. Then he began to speak. He told her about the blue oceans that cover most of his planet. He told her about the forests and mountains and deserts. He told her about the cities where millions of people lived close together, and the small villages where everyone knew each other's names. He told her about human history, the wars and the peace, the failures and the triumphs. The times when humans were cruel to each other, and the times when they came together to do amazing things. He told her about love and family, about parents who worked hard to give their children better lives, about brothers and sisters who fought but still protected each other, about friends who became closer than blood relatives. Velith listened to every word. Some things she understood. Others were completely foreign to her. But she wanted to learn more. In your world, she said slowly, people care for each other without expecting anything in return? Many do, yes. Not everyone. Humans can be selfish and cruel too. But at our best, we take care of each other. We believe that we are stronger together than alone. That is very different from our way. Calorians believe that strength comes from within. We do not depend on others. We do not show weakness. Dawn nodded. I understand. But may I ask you something, Your Majesty? You may. When you were at your weakest, who stayed with you? Your powerful advisors? Your mighty warriors? Or someone you considered beneath you? Velith was silent. The answer was obvious, but she did not want to say it out loud. Duhayan continued gently. I do not think depending on others is weakness. I think true strength is being able to give and receive help. No one can face everything alone. Not even a queen. Velith looked at him for a long moment. Then she slowly reached out and took his hand. Her grip was still weak, but it was warm. You have given me much to think about, Doyen. Outside the Queen's chambers, Lord Tarvok was growing more desperate. The Queen was recovering. The human was becoming a hero. If this continued, everything would change. The old ways would be questioned. His power would disappear. He called a secret meeting with 3 nobles who shared his views. They gathered in a dark room far from listening ears. The human must be removed, Lord Tarvok said, before the Queen recovers fully, before she makes any declarations about him. How? One noble asked. He is watched at all times. The servants love him. Even some of the warriors respect him now. There will be a celebration when the Queen is healed. Everyone will be focused on her. That is when we strike. Make it look like an accident. A fall from a balcony. A piece of bad food. Something that cannot be traced back to us. The nobles nodded. They did not like killing, but they liked change even less. The human represented everything they feared. A new way of thinking. A challenge to their traditions. He had to be eliminated. They made their plans carefully. They chose their moment. They waited. Meanwhile, Velith continued to recover. Within 2 more days, she was able to stand up in bed. Within 3, she could stand with assistance. Her full strength would take weeks to return, but she was out of danger. The palace celebrated. Music played in the great halls. Food and drink were shared freely. After so much fear and darkness, the Calorians needed something to be happy about. Doyen was invited to the celebration, but he stayed in the background. He did not want attention. He was just glad that Velith was alive. Somi found him standing alone on a small balcony, looking up at the stars. You should be inside, she said. Everyone wants to thank you. I did not do it for thanks. Somi smiled. I know. That is what makes you special. She paused, then lowered her voice. Be careful tonight. I have heard whispers. Some people are not happy about what you have done. Dahan looked at her seriously. What kind of whispers? I do not know exactly, but Lord Tarvok has been meeting with certain nobles in secret. They do not like how close you have become to the Queen. Thank you for telling me, Somi. I will be careful. She nodded and left. Dohu stayed on the balcony, thinking about her words. He had known that not everyone would accept him, but he had hoped that saving the Queen would change their minds. It seemed he was wrong. An hour later, Lord Tarvok approached him with a cup of wine and a friendly smile. It was the first time he had ever smiled at Do-hyun without cruelty. "Human, you have proven yourself worthy. Please, drink with me. Let us put the past behind us." Do-hyun looked at the cup. Something felt wrong. Lord Tarvok had hated him from the first moment they met. Why would he suddenly be friendly? Then Do-hyun remembered what Somi had said. "Be careful." "Thank you, Lord Tarvok, but I do not drink alcohol. Human bodies are sensitive to it." Lord Tarvok's smile flickered for just a moment. "Just one cup will not hurt. It is a tradition. To refuse would be an insult. Then I apologize for the insult. But I must refuse." The mask of friendliness dropped from Lord Tarvok's face. His eyes turned cold and hard. "You are a clever creature, human. Too clever. But cleverness will not save you forever." He walked away, leaving Do-hyun alone with his thoughts. The night continued. The celebration grew louder. But Do-hyun stayed alert, watching for danger in every shadow. He knew that Lord Tarvok would try again. He did not know when or how, but he knew it was coming, and when it came, he would be ready. Inside the great hall, Queen Velith made her first public appearance since her illness. She was still weak, but she stood tall on her throne. Her people cheered and cried with joy. She looked out at the crowd, searching for one face. When she found Do-hyun standing alone in the corner, she smiled, for the first time in 300 years. Queen Velith felt something new stirring in her heart. She did not know what to call it yet, but she knew it was because of him. 3 weeks had passed since the celebration. Queen Velith had fully recovered her strength. The Grey Death was now just a bad memory. Life in the palace had returned to normal. Reef in the normal. Except for one thing. Everything had changed between Velith and Do-hyun. They spent hours talking each day. Velith asked endless questions about Earth and human culture. Do-hyun patiently answered each one. They walked together in the palace gardens. They ate meals together in the private dining hall. The servants whispered that the queen had never been so happy. Lord Tarvok watched all of this with growing hatred. His first attempt to kill the human had failed. He needed a new plan. Something more direct. Something that could not be stopped. He found his answer in an old Kalorian tradition called the Challenge of Honor. Any noble could challenge the queen's chosen partner to combat. If the partner lost, the marriage would be cancelled and he would be exiled forever. No one had used this tradition in 200 years. But it was still law. On a cold morning, Lord Tarvok walked into the throne room where Velith and Do-hyun were discussing trade agreements. He knelt before the queen with fake respect. "My queen, I invoke the challenge of honor against the human. I believe he is unworthy of being your husband. I demand the right to prove it in combat." The room went silent. Velith's eyes widened with shock, then narrowed with anger. "Lord Tarvok, this tradition is ancient and dangerous. The challenged party rarely survives. Are you trying to murder my chosen partner?" "I am trying to protect the empire, my queen. The human is weak. He will make you weak. Our enemies will see this marriage as a sign that the Kalorian Empire is failing. I do this for you. For all of us." Velith stood up, fury burning in her purple eyes. "I reject this challenge. As queen, I have the power to know your majesty." Do-hyun's calm voice cut through the tension. He stepped forward and bowed to Velith. "You cannot reject it. I read about this tradition during my studies. If you refuse, the nobles can vote to remove the challenged party anyway. Lord Tarvok knows this. He planned it well." Lord Tarvok smiled coldly. "The human speaks the truth. So what is your answer? Will you face me in combat, or will you leave in shame?" Do-hyun looked at the tall, powerful Kalorian. Lord Tarvok was one of the greatest warriors in the empire. He had won hundreds of battles. He had killed dozens of enemies with his bare hands. Fighting him was suicide, but running away was not an option. "I accept the challenge," Do-hyun said quietly. Velith grabbed his arm. "Do-hyun, no. He will kill you. There must be another way." Do-hyun gently took her hand. "There is no other way. If I run, I prove that I am everything they say about humans. Weak, cowardly, worthless. But if I fight, even if I lose, I show them that humans do not back down from impossible situations. But you will die. Maybe, but I would rather die standing than live running." Velith stared into his eyes. She saw no fear there, only determination, only strength. The same strength that had kept him going through all the training. The same strength that had saved her life. In that moment, she understood something she had been trying to deny for weeks. She loved him, not because he was powerful or useful, not because of politics or alliances. She loved him because he was kind, brave, and true. She loved him because he had shown her a different way to live. "Fight well, my human," she whispered. "Come back to me." The challenge took place in the great arena outside the palace. Thousands of Calorians gathered to watch. Most expected it to be a quick execution. A few were curious to see if the human had any surprises left. Do-hyun stood in the center of the arena, wearing simple fighting clothes. He had no armor, no weapons, nothing but his own body. Across from him, Lord Tarvok stood tall in full battle gear, holding a long blade that glowed with energy. "Any last words, human?" Lord Tarvok asked with a cruel grin. Do-hyun took a deep breath. "Yes, win or lose, I want you to remember this moment. Remember what a simple human did when faced with impossible odds." Lord Tarvok laughed. "I will remember how easily you died." The signal was given. The fight began. Lord Tarvok attacked with incredible speed. His blade cut through the air like lightning. Do-hyun barely dodged the first strike. The second strike cut his arm. The third knocked him to the ground. The crowd cheered for Lord Tarvok. This was what they expected. A quick victory for the Kalorian warrior. But Do-hyun stood up. Lord Tarvok attacked again. And again. And again. Each time, Do-hyun fell. Each time, he got back up. His body was covered with cuts and bruises. Blood dripped from his wounds. But he would not stay down. The crowd grew quiet. Something strange was happening. The human refused to die. He refused to give up. No matter how many times he was knocked down, he found the strength to rise. Lord Tarvok's attacks became more desperate. He was not used to this. His enemies always fell and stayed down. This human was different. This human kept coming back. "Why will you not die?" Lord Tarvok screamed, striking Do-hyun with full force. Do-hyun crashed to the ground once more. His vision was blurry. His body was broken. But deep inside, something still burned. A fire that could not be put out. He thought about his mother, his sister, his home. He thought about all the humans who were counting on this alliance. He thought about Velith, waiting for him to return. He could not give up. Not now. Not ever. With a strength he did not know he had, Do-hyun pushed himself up one more time. He stood on shaking legs and faced Lord Tarvok. "Is that all you have?" he whispered. Lord Tarvok's face twisted with rage and fear. He raised his blade for the final strike. "Stop!" Queen Velith's voice echoed across the arena. She walked onto the fighting ground, her eyes blazing with authority. "This challenge is over." Lord Tarvok lowered his blade slightly. "My queen, I have not won yet. The human still stands." "Exactly. That is why it is over." Velith turned to face the crowd. "For 10 minutes, Lord Tarvok has attacked this human with everything he has. And the human is still standing. He has no armor, no weapons, no special powers. Yet he refuses to fall. She walked to Do-yoon and stood beside him. The challenge of honor is meant to prove worthiness. Do-yoon has proven his worth 100 times over. Not through strength or speed, but through something greater. Courage, determination, a will that cannot be broken. She took Dun's bloody hand and raised it high. This is true power. Not muscles or magic, but the power to never give up. To keep fighting for what you believe in. To stand tall when everyone expects you to fall. The arena was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the crowd began to cheer. First a few voices, then hundreds, then thousands. They chanted Do-yoon's name. They celebrated his spirit. Lord Tarvok dropped his blade in disbelief. He had won every battle in his life. But today, he had lost something more important. He had lost the respect of his people. Velith helped Do-yoon walk out of the arena. Doctors rushed to treat his wounds. But despite his injuries, Do-yoon was smiling. "Did I do well?" he asked weakly. Velith leaned close and whispered in his ear, "You did more than well. You amazed me. You amazed everyone." She kissed his forehead gently. "And you have my heart, Do-yoon, forever." 1 month later, the wedding ceremony took place. It was the greatest celebration in Kalorian history. Humans and Kalorians came together as one. Old hatred was replaced by new understanding. And at the center of it all stood a simple human who had taught an entire empire the true meaning of strength. Not power over others, but power over yourself, the power to never give up.